Hi everybody, this is the alien girl with you here, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most interesting, intelligent, and complicated characters of all times, which is Rory Gilmore from Gilmore Girls. I just want to know something. In this video, I'm not going to be shaming Rory Gilmore in any possible way. I'm not going to be talking about her downfall. I mean, I am going to be talking a little bit about her downfall, but not in the way the typical downfall is addressed. Because I actually think that when we're talking about Rory Gilmore, there wasn't one. If you want to know why, just keep watching this video and yeah, let's get on with it because I've got some really interesting information for you guys. Okay, so Rory Gilmore. What's up with her? What is her story and what do we know about her? Well, I think everybody knows, because it's well-known facts, that Rory is this young, intelligent, bright girl who is really passionate about pursuing her dream in journalism, right? She's timid, she's always on time, she loves studying, she's obsessed with it, basically. We also know that she, for most of her life, which is probably 16 years, that's not most of her life, but whatever. She wanted to study in Harvard, right? And we also know that she's got the most amazing, independent woman in her life, which is her mother, right? Rory Gilmore. I love Rory Gilmore. I don't know. She's my goddess. I can pray to her. I would marry her if I could, but unfortunately I can't. She married Luke. Oops, sorry for the disclaimer if you haven't seen Gilmore Girls. I want to start why I, mentioned Lorelai. I want to start with her and her story because by discovering Lorelai's personality and Lorelai's traumas, we can really then slowly start talking about also Rory's traumas and Rory's personality and her character development, because Lorelai had a really strong impact in Rory's life, a really strong impact, one you may not even realize about, but this video is created especially for this purpose. So Rory Gilmore. Again, like I said, this young, independent, strong woman who, made her career by her own self, who was raised a child by her own self, who's got her own house, who looks beautiful all the time, who's just basically this ideal person, right? But no matter how independent she is, no matter how strong she is, she has this one kind of, I don't want to call it a weakness, but a lot of people may call it a weakness, but I personally don't think it is one. But it may be considered such for lots of people, again, because this weakness is love, or more like a desire for love, right? No, it's not a weakness, definitely not. But this desire, this need, which is absolutely normal and natural, can cause lots of traumas for people. I can elaborate on this. I'm going to explain. So no matter how complicated Lorelai's relationships were with her parents, right, she still wanted them to love her. She still wanted them to accept her like any other child. And that's absolutely normal because we all want our parents to love us, to care about us, to accept us as we, as who we are. But that's not always the case, right? Sometimes our parents may love us in one way that they think is, the best way to express love, or they may love us the way their parents loved them, right? Because they didn't know how different can it be, and they do it the way their parents would do it to them. And every parent has their own way to expressing it, right? And with Emily and Lorelai, why it was so difficult, who doesn't know Emily is Lorelai's mother, why it was so difficult for them is because Emily has some of her own character development issues, which she couldn't really work on because, you know, for her entire life, she was kind of also told how it was supposed to be, right? She lived in this limited world, and actually, I think Emily deserves a separate video. So if you guys want to hear about Emily a little bit more, you can just text me in the comments below and I'm gonna film it. But again, I just wanted to address it a little bit here for now. So Emily has got her own issues, and because of that, because she doesn't really know how different can it be, she doesn't understand how to express her life, her love to Lorelai in a different way, in a different light, right? And in one of the episodes, she even says that I wasn't taught to be best friends with my daughter. I was taught to, I don't remember exactly what she said, but you know, she was taught to be like this role model, right? This perfect, maybe a little bit strict role model, to, you know, show her daughter how to do things in the world. But Emily and Lorelai, they are different by nature, and that's why they always had those conflicts, etc., etc., etc. And you may ask me now, why are you talking about that? Like, yeah, we get it, but why? And that's a really good question. So I'm talking about it because I think it's important to understand that Emily loved Lorelai in her own way, but Lorelai couldn't see that because it wasn't the way she expressed love. It wasn't the way she wanted her parents to love her. It wasn't the way she could even understand that she was being loved and accepted because her mother would always criticize her, right? And with that trauma, with understanding that she would never be the kind of person her parents wanted her to be. She would never be the kind of person Emily always told her to be. And still having the desire that, you know, she may not have admitted out loud or showed directly in her behavior, she still had this desire, this really big desire that was rooted deep down in her to be loved and accepted by her parents.
Why don't you care? Why have you never cared? No matter what has happened to me my entire life, you've never been happy for me, and that hurts, Mom. It really hurts.
So, with that being said, even without maybe realizing that in her own head, she had to do something, right, that would help her receive that kind of love, receive that kind of affection, acceptance. And what she did, and now we actually start talking about Rory, is that, yeah, she gave birth to Rory, right? She created Rory, and she even gave her her name. And not a lot of people think about it, but I think it's one of the most important things that we need to focus on, because Lorelai didn't just name Rory just because she liked this name. She named Rory Lorelai after her because Rory was supposed to become, again, for Lorelai probably subconsciously, this better version of her, this version that her parents would accept, that her parents would be proud of, that her parents would love, because she knew that by her nature, she would never be able to do that. She would never be able to satisfy their needs. So what she did, because, you know, that way she could still receive some sort of love, some sort of acceptance from them by giving birth to Rory, right? She became this second best version of Lorelai, one she could never make herself to be or transform into.
I'm Lorelai Gilmore. This is my daughter, Lorelai Gilmore, because I named her after me as in the hospital.
Think about all those moments when Emily and Richard would approach Rory and tell her how proud they are of her. And Richard, even for just a few times, told Lorelai that Only, a strong woman like herself could actually create someone like Rory, right? So through Rory, Lorelai became everything her parents wanted her to be, right? Through Rory, because basically she created Rory for all those things. She imposed her dreams, again, subconsciously, right? Because consciously, I don't think she's ever even thought about it. Subconsciously, she imposed all those dreams, right, and desires on Rory. And in so many families, it's an absolutely normal thing, because, sometimes we just can't really see the difference. We can't really decipher whether it's our dream or our parents' dream. And so now you probably want to ask me, how is it connected to Rory and, her character development? If you maybe some of you can see this connection, I'm going to answer simple, because Rory, as a child, subconsciously would always get this idea in her head that for her to be loved, right, for her to be accepted by Lorelai now, she had to be this embodiment of perfection Lorelai herself could never be. Again, guys, take it with a grain of salt, because when I'm saying subconsciously, I mean subconsciously. I could never say that Lorelai was like actually forcing Rory to do some things, but there was a little bit kind of a, a little like a portion of manipulation there. And again, it's all subconsciousness, right? It's not like Lorelai could even realize it. In one of the first episodes, when Rory goes to Chilton and then she struggles there with, what it was literature, right? Literature or history, I again don't remember, unfortunately. And she even gets to hit a deer, which was absolutely crazy. She was hit by a deer. It's even crazier. She had this small talk with Lorelai when Lorelai said this one interesting thing. She said, "Where did this whole Harvard thing come from? Because I don't remember how it even started. Was it my dream? Because I always wanted you to, go there and get something I've never gotten. Or was it your dream?" And Rory said it was her dream, but now we all kind of see the picture and where it's coming from. So Rory grows up with this desire that she needs to, by being perfect for everyone, because everybody considers her perfect, and being perfect, it's a lot of responsibility. I might say it's a really huge grudge, because everybody expects you to be perfect. You don't have a right to do anything, bad, to do anything different, to do anything weird. You don't have the right to do that, because everybody expects you to be perfect. Everybody sees you as perfect. And she grows up with this belief that for her to be loved, she needs to be perfect, right? So love equals perfection. And then we also need to consider this one thing, that Lorelai was always present in Rory's life a little bit too much.
All I could think of the minute you left was, I want my mommy.
There are some things that kids need to do without their parents. Sometimes, there actually comes this period of time in a kid's life when he or she or whoever this is, they need to figure out a way to live by themselves, by their own rules, their own dreams, beliefs, ideals. And I think with Rory and Lorelai, because Lorelai was always afraid that, seeing her relationship with Emily, sometimes, she was kind of wondering or being afraid maybe deep down that one day Rory can also run away from her house and they would stop talking, and she was so afraid of, you know, this happening to her too. So she started controlling her in her own way. She was never controlling her like the way, you know, Emily would do it. Emily would just impose herself on everything Lorelai would try to do, right? She was like always there, but in a rude way, right? And Lorelai was kind of always there with her opinion, her advice, literally everything, right? Every belief Rory had, every kind of statement, anything you can think of, right, came from Lorelai.
My ultimate inspiration comes from my best friend, the dazzling woman from whom I received my name and my life's blood, Lorelai Gilmore.
So there even this clip, again, it was, I think, in Chilton, when Lorelai even said that, you know, we are literally one person. If I'm gonna find it, I'm gonna put it somewhere here.
My God, we're just one person.
They were doing everything together. They were considered as one. Lorelai and Rory, Gilmore Girls. Even when it comes to Rory's love life, Lorelai was always there. She was always with her advice, always with her opinion. And again, it's normal, right? It's normal, but only when it's, I don't know, it's not too much, you know? And why do you think Lorelai loved Dean so much? She loved Dean because Dean was kind of always hanging out with her too, right? But think about it. How many boyfriends or girlfriends, I don't know who's watching this, are actually hanging out with you and your parents? Not many, I think, right? And then that's absolutely normal because that's natural, right? We are naturally separating from our parents and starting to discover who we are. But Rory didn't have that moment because Lorelai was always there, absolutely always, all the time. So when some moments come when Rory needs to make her decision, she comes running to her mother and asking for her every single time because she doesn't know what to do.
Won't you just tell me what to do?
She doesn't know how to be alone anymore, right? So she's basically in some sort of way addicted to her, which is again not okay.
You didn't socialize me properly. You made me a mama's girl. Why don't I hate you? Why don't I want to be away from you?
Okay, and after that, when we start actually thinking about Rory's career and what went wrong, you know, because even though she had her mom, yeah, Lorelai actually had really good advices and, you know, her opinion was really often wise. I'm not saying that it wasn't, right? It just wasn't Rory's, it was always Lorelai's. And again, sometimes we need to make mistakes to discover who we are and what we actually want and how we want to live our life, right? And when we again talk about her career here, I want to note something. So she always, for her like whole life, thought she wanted to be a journalist, right? Now let's talk a little bit about her personality, something that we know about her. Rory is calm, right? Rory is timid. Rory is always on time. She reminds me a little bit of Hermione, but she's not, like, she's a smart ass, but she's not like conceited or something, you know? So she's not boastful about it, even though she's a smart ass. I want to also admit she has really good management skills, like she knows how to manage people, and assistant skills, also true, yes. And she's a good writer, like we can't take this from her. She's a good writer and lots of pieces she wrote were awesome, right? She is obsessed with books, with authors, but the only thing we need to consider here is, which a lot of people don't consider, but there is a huge difference between being a good writer and being a good journalist, because a writer can write about anything, right? He can make up his own stories, create something completely new, or just, I don't know, like describe some history events, whatever. A journalist, he needs to pursue some, you know, already created story. He needs to pursue it, he needs to talk to specific people, get them talking, he needs to be brave, bold, you know, he needs to know how to get himself out there, how to present himself, how to act, basically, right? And those are all of the skills that Rory didn't have. If we're being honest, she didn't have them. She would be better off with, you know, a slice of pizza and reading a book than going socializing. You know, she wasn't a social person at all, as we remember, because in Chilton and also in some episode when Paris and Rory went to this Florida event, it was like a spring party or something, if you know what I'm talking about, right? They had a chance to socialize there. She was asked to socialize in Chilton, but she wasn't a really social person. So she didn't have the skills that a good journalist would have. And she didn't really have her own opinions, because every time she would write something, like an article, she would usually write not like from her own perspective, but from someone else's. Lots of people tell her about it. Lots of people show her, even Doyle, right? Her editor in the Yale Daily News, he asked her if she had her own opinions, because usually she would just write what was expected to write.
You have opinions, don't you?
Sure I do.
She's the kind of person who is given specific requirements and she can fulfill them, like, you know, almost like perfectly or something. She really knows how to do that, but she doesn't know how to create her own rules, her own ideals. Again, because of Lorelai, and you know, we talked about this earlier. So when we talk about Rory and journalism, we can just clearly see that she didn't have all the skills that would require her to work in this field.
And I have to tell you, you don't got it.
However, Lorelai would be a perfect journalist, because Lorelai was everything a journalist would have to be. She knew how to talk to people. She knew how to make people do what she wanted, right? She was really friendly. She was a really social person. She was a really bright person. She was basically always the center of attention. So Lorelai would be a perfect journalist. She loved pursuing a story or something. And Rory, kind of seeing that, because she loved writing, she thought that maybe she should be a journalist, and in that way she would be like her mother, right? But she would also do what she likes on her own, because writing and reading was the only thing that was kind of Rory's, right? Not Lorelai's. But again, she just like confused those two things, a writer and a journalist, and that's really important. So I think, you know, if we want to summon this up, we might just say that Rory would be a perfect writer, but not a really good journalist. And that's what I think actually was preventing Rory from being who she wanted to be, because she didn't know who she wanted to be. She wasn't clear on that. She didn't have time to discover that. So when we finally watch this 8th season, 1 Year in Life, we see Rory being this really confused girl, even a woman, right, who doesn't know what's happening in her life, who doesn't have a career, doesn't have a family, you know, who's just literally lost, right? It's not a downfall. It's just a period of time when she actually realizes, right, with this book and all, that she, for her entire life, she lived not her life, but her mother's life.
I don't know if she ever realized that the person I most wanted to be was her.
Right? She was trying to repeat her mother's life, and she lived by her mother's beliefs, rules, expectations, ideals, even though they weren't, you know, ruled rude or like superimposed, but they were always there. And when she finally decides, you know, everything's crumbling down, everything in her life, and she finally decides to write this book, this, even though Lorelai wasn't really happy about it, right? Which is understandable, by writing this book, and you know, because it was so easy for her, because she could actually put an ending to this connection that they have. Not a connection, they would always have, I think, this deep and warm and fuzzy connection, right? But to this attachment, to this crazy thing when you just don't know, you know, if you are you or your mother. By writing this book, she could actually express herself as a writer, not a journalist, as a writer, which is amazing, and also put an ending to this crazy connection. So I think that from this point, you know, when she would publish her book and everything, it would be the most important time period in her life, because in that moment she would actually be able to discover who she was after she would finish this book, because this period of life would come to an end. And with that being said, so is this video, because I feel, guys, like, you know, it's been too long. And yeah, if you like this video, please like it and subscribe. And if you want me to analyze some more characters from Gilmore Girls or any other movies or TV shows, I would be only happy to do that. So leave comments, and yeah, I'm gonna see you guys really soon.